So this is a real quick video to show how you could use Zapier and webhooks to get your OfferLab sales page purchase registered in your system IO setup. So what I've got my sales page. You can see it's on my own domain. That is hosted in system IO. So one of the first things you want to do really is go into system IO, create a tag. You know, if someone was buying this in system IO, you'd want to tag them with something, you know, Canva Foundations purchase, for example, showing that they'd bought this so that you can segment them later. You might even want to put them on a campaign. Go and create those tags now. Next step. If you go into Zapier, what I am using, you will need a pro account. You can't use the free version, unfortunately. I tried it with the free, but it's just too limiting. So I bit the bullet. If you go and create a new Zap, it'll come up with this Copilot, describe your workflow. Don't bother, just go straight down to the trigger. We want a webhook. Over here, the trigger event, we want a catch hook. And as you'll see, this is a premium action. We can filter, but none of these are required fields. So you can read that. By default, it gives you the entire payload of the webhook. If you're after just specific parts of the payload, you can put stuff in here. For now, because we don't actually know what the payload looks like, just do the whole payload. This then gives you the URL. You can copy that. Now you need to go over to OfferLabs. Over on the main menu, there's the settings. Click that, webhooks, create subscription. Give it a name. So for me, this is a webhook through Zapier to end up in system IO. And there's your URL. You'll see there's this bit down the bottom, select the events to subscribe to. Come back to that. Let's just leave it so we get all of them. Okay, once we have this set up, we can go back to our Zap. We can test the trigger. It's going to be tricky to test it because there's nothing that's been sent to it yet, and that's the way it likes to do the test. So yeah, as it says, there's been no requests found on that endpoint yet. So what I will do now, if I jump to one of my existing, the one I've actually got running at the moment. So we go back to, you'll see we've got the webhook as the very first step, and it's a catch hook. You see I'm not choosing any particular keys. I continue. This is what it looks like when you have had some purchases to it. So the way you could test this is set your offer up for a really low purchase price, you know, $1. Go and buy it. One, you've got the webhook set up in OfferLab. Then you'll end up with some data here you can look at. So this is showing that it's found some records, and I can hit find new records and it will pull in data again. And if you look at that, you'll see this is the data that's going to come into the webhook. So you see the offer name and some other things. Let me be careful. There might be some sensitive data in here. Cool. This is just me. This is one of my test records. So we can do the testing with that and it will move on to the next step. For me, the next step, and I could have done this multiple ways, so I'm just going to show you what I did. The next step was choosing an action to split into paths. Now, you know, when you add a step, you get to choose from this list, right? Did a flow control, paths, build different steps for different rules. it did split into paths, and we got two paths, path A, path B, except I deleted path B. So path A is a rule that says only continue if the event type, so the event type is one of the pieces of data that we get through the payload. And you can type, so if I put price, you'll see these are the data fields it knows will come through. Data offer uses tiered pricing as an example. I could do email, customer email. So you could filter on anything you like. So what I'm doing, I'm saying the type must be an order completed and the status must be paid. So this action will only continue under these conditions. All of the webhooks will arrive in here, so you'll see I'm getting ones for order started, order abandoned, but they're not getting beyond this point. And again, you can test it. And it says your path would have continued with this test data. That's good. The example I chose is order completed and paid. So next step, I added an AI by Zapier step. If we can figure that. Input fields. So I chose, again, you can do a forward slash and get access to fields in here. And Copilot will come up and suggest stuff. But again, so I chose name because we got the customer name. But you could choose any property you want. And what I was trying to do, I wrote a really simple prompt here saying, I want to split this field into title, first name, and last name, and expose those three properties to the next step. And I only wrote a little prompt, and then there's a button that will turn that into a much better prompt for you. So yeah, this understood exactly what I wanted, and it created this prompt for me, which I think is really good. As a data processing assistant, your task is to analyze the provided value, and if feasible, split it into three distinct components: a title, a first name, and a last name. Please ensure the output is structured in a clear format, such as a JSON object with the following keys: title, first name, last name. If any of the components cannot be identified, please return null for that specific key. For example, if the input is Dr. John Smith, the output should be title, Doctor, first name, John, last name, null. That's a rubbish example. So it did that. So yeah, the output fields here are title, first name, and last name. So these are the three fields that are going to come out of this based on the one field going in of name. And again, the test step picked out using the data that went in, which was my name, Mark Ashton. There was no title, so there is no title, but it's managed to split that into two distinct properties, which is what System.io likes. Okay, the next one is some code. Purpose of this code is to work out what tag I want to add to the user based on what they purchased. In System.io, so I created this one. Up here in the title bar, you see that number there? That's the actual tag ID that's of interest. So that's the only way within System.io to find the ID of a tag. There is another way, which I'll show you later. So once I've got those IDs, and actually there's two tags, I've got a get profits sign up. So this is like a fallback tag I want to use if I can't identify what the person has bought for some strange reason. So this is some code. I'm not going to walk you through the code. It's in JavaScript. You can actually use ChatGPT or something to write this code for you if you explain what it is you want to do. So that's the ID of my default tag, which is just get profits purchase. Sorry, OfferLab purchase. This is now a map where we're going, this is my product title. This is what appears in the data. So the input data of the product, which I'm pulling from the product name. And again, you could map anything here. So if I want to add another one, and I could call this, city, simply, and then I could find some data. There is no city. How about address? I could go data shipping address. Let's just use that whole field and map it to city. It's pointless doing that, but you could do that, right? So what I've done here is mapped product name to an input data called product, which is going to be used down in the code. This is finding whether the value of product, which in this case is Canva Foundations ebook, if it's in this map, return this ID. If it's not, we'll use this ID. So now what's coming out of this is a tag ID. As I say, you can generate with AI, you can generate some code here by the look of it. So what this will do on the test step, you'll see it's taken in the Canva Foundations product. It's decided there is this tag ID, and then use default is something I did just so I can see which bit of logic it went through. It's not using the default, it's actually found it. So that's great. We'll use this in a next step, which is the system IO. Okay, so again, this is just another action. If you look and you add steps on the list of the things you could add, you'll see my top apps, system IO, and you can search to find other integrations. So on the setup of this, the action, I'm creating or updating a contact, including adding tags. There's a few different actions you can do. So, you can just remove tags, you can revoke access to courses, subscribe to campaigns. So there's a fairly rich one, but for me, yeah, I want to create a contact if it doesn't exist or update them if they do, and add specific tags to them because they've just purchased something from me. You link your account, so that's linked to my system IO. Then this is where you do the mapping, right? So for this particular action, you need to provide which tag to use. So there are two options. This is the other way you can find a value for a tag, by the way. It needs to exist beforehand. You can't dynamically create tags through this process. They need to exist in system IO. So if you were to choose static, it'll give you a list of all your tags, right? So this is where you could find one like get profit sign up. And on the test step, you'll see it's actually used an ID. So that's one way you can discover an ID. But that's not what I want. I don't want to hard code a list of, I don't want to manually choose which tag here because it's going to depend on what they purchased, right? So this is where we go custom, enter a custom value. And this is where I'm basing it on a field that I've used, which was tag ID, which came out of the JavaScript step. So yeah, I'm going to use whatever came out of that step as the tag. Then the fields, populating as much as I can from the webhook, which in this case is really just the email, the first name and last name that I extracted out of another step, right? And again, you do /, you can, in use data, you can find all the data from your different steps. Yeah. Previous steps. So if I know that my first name and last name came out of my AI step, right, which is analyze and return, so that's there. And you can see title, first name, last name, they all came out of that step. So that's what I could use. And that is what I'm using. But a lot of this stuff doesn't actually come through, so can't do that. And then continue, it gives you a little summary of what's there. And you can do a test run, complete test run, and publish it. Obviously, you'll need to test this by making purchases. I've not found a way yet to do test purchases. Even though in Stripe you can put it in sandbox mode, the OfferLab sales page doesn't work when you do that, I've discovered. So have fun. Oh, one more step. So once this is completed, what's happened is we've gone and tagged. We've created a user in system IO and we've tagged them. But that's it. So what you'll need to do is go and set up an automation, a new rule. And this is a simple rule I've got. So trigger, when a tag has been added to someone, in this case my Canva Foundations purchase, I'm going to do an action which is sending an email to that contact. And then the email, you can create it just here, edit it. It's just a simple one. It says, welcome, and here's the link. Here's the download link. You can obviously add more actions as well. So if you wanted, you could go and sign them up to subscribe them up to an email campaign as well if you wanted. I'm not doing that at the moment. This is a simple one. Don't forget that step. That's how the customer will get their product delivered to them All right, I've spoken enough. That's enough. It's a complicated topic. Good luck. May the force be with you.